everybody, this is Perch. What are you here for? Um, I've been asking this question more and more to people I talk to within comics, either people who are full-time employees, people who are contractors, people who are artists. Why are you doing this? There was something that was said, a while ago on one of the live streams, or maybe it was an interview. And I was talking with Jeff, and Jeff, I think, always does a really good job of nailing in on the important bits. We don't agree on everything, of course. By the way, I always hate that disclaimer. We don't agree on everything. People sometimes say, I don't always agree with your content. God, I would hope not. What kind of weird, crazy world it would be if we agreed on everything? Like, that's not how humans work. The trick isn't that you have to agree with everybody. The trick is that when you don't agree, you don't turn into a homicidal maniac, that you don't start immediately trying to get the person excised from the planet. That's the difference. And that's peak 2021 where we find ourselves now, where it's, disagreement is normal. Maybe this is just being Gen X. I don't know. I can be, whenever somebody says, I don't always agree with you, it's like, I mean, of course, because that would be completely weird if you did. Nobody should completely agree with anyone. The trick is, but I find myself more and more surprised now when people say, I don't agree with you, but I like your show. I didn't used to be surprised by that. Now I am, because we've reached this point where it's like, I don't agree with something you say, and you must be destroyed is kind of the comment. It's nuts. Anyway, that is crazy talk. There's a number of different things. I've done some of these videos lately. I've done a couple that are sitting out there. They've been uploaded and everything else, and I don't exactly remember what's on the video. It says something like drunken rant, don't post this, or angry video, don't post this. And I just sit up there and I'm like, I should probably listen to that before I put that out. But chances are a good portion of that video is me going, come on, this is common sense, you dumb assholes. Come on. It's like, anyway, I don't need to get into that. That would change the purpose of that video. But I asked people, what are you in for? And again, the genesis set is talking with Jeff, and it's up there, I think, in the interview. And he makes a comment of like, people aren't in comics to get rich. Nobody's doing this because they're going to make a ton of money. They're doing it, because of passion or because they love comics. And that's by and large true. I think there's a handful of people who still maybe believe they're going to get rich somehow. And then there's a handful of people who have actually managed to make a good living for themselves. Todd McFarlane has made a great living for himself. Rob Liefeld is an active, he still does comics, but he's made a good living for him. There's people who definitely have gotten, rich. Funny thing about rich, though, by the way, I just want to throw out there, is rich is this fascinating sliding scale that I remember 20 years ago, I had a goal for myself. Like when I hit, X million of dollars, then I'm done. I'm going to retire. I know I can do it. I'm going to go out into the wilderness and I'm going to get a little cabin there. And that's it. And then you hit that number and you're like, it'd be nicer if I had more. And then you just keep resetting that bar. I've been resetting that bar continuously now for 30 years. And every now and then I stop and I have this crisis of conscience. Like, I should stop now. Why am I still doing this to myself? Especially when I picked up a consulting gig that I hate. And I'm miserable doing every second of it. I'm like, I got to get through this work. And then there's a small voice in the back of my head going, you didn't need to do this work. If you said you were going to retire like X million dollars ago. Why are you still going? And then, at some point you're just like, well, you're a dumbass is what my subconscious tells me. That subconscious sounds like mumbles. Anyway, I think Jeff is absolutely right. By and large, most people who are in comics are not doing it for the money. Again, some are, and more power to you if you figured out how to make that work. But a lot of times you come into it for passion. But passion is this weird nebulous thing. It's hard to kind of pin down. So I've found myself asking more and more people lately, why are you doing this? What are you trying to get out of it? What do you want? And what I'm finding is it's starting to kind of group into a couple different answers. One answer is I loved comics growing up. I love being a storyteller. I love being able to, give my spin on stories and then kind of hear how people react and hear, be able to see these people kind of who have read it and get that circle of I create something, somebody reads it, they give me feedback, and I love that circle. People like Jim Zub, I think when I interviewed him, I don't know for sure. I need to ask a question to Jim. But that seemed pretty. I would say that probably nailed him pretty well. He's a storyteller. He likes creating things. He likes putting stuff out, and the thrill of being able to tell those stories, to tell those journeys, and then get that feedback seems pretty high on his list of something he loves. And I think that sums up him, and I think that sums up many people. I think there's others who say, I am creative by nature. I like telling comic stories. I like drawing comic characters. And if I can get paid for that, even though I'm not going to get rich doing it, it's a pretty great life. It's, if I get to draw Batman and I get to, do pages and pages of Batman, I like drawing Batman. I like drawing some of my own characters. I'm happy, could I have made more money if I would have gone to lawyer school and gotten my degree there and pursued that, or become a neurosurgeon? Could have made more, but I love comics, and I think that's the other side of it. I think that probably a guy like Sean Murphy probably fits into that. He's doing well for himself, make no mistake about it. But I mean, if Sean had to pick between making what he makes, drawing Batman and doing the comics he's doing, or 5x the salary being a brain surgeon, I think he'd still pick comics because, I don't know. Maybe I'm misjudging Sean. Maybe he really would like to cut open somebody's head and fool around in there. I don't know. Then there's this third group. And this is where people are rarely so blunt with it. But I like the people I work with. I like the community aspect of comics. That's why I like comics, because I like the community aspect of it. And it's that reason that started to give me pause. And I want to explain why. I've said before, I like doing this channel, I like doing these videos because I like the experience of being in the shop, hanging out with customers and be able to hear what they have. I like that community aspect of it. And certainly I've had lots of employees over the years, and we've hung out in the shop, after hours and other things, and talk comics and everything else. But I never wanted to make a life commitment around, or a job commitment around that element. That was never what I was in for. Maybe I'm an introvert at heart, who knows? But the idea of saying the reason why I want to work in comics is to be around other comics people feels like a slippery slope down to more, I don't say sinister things, but more disturbing things. Because we go back to kind of what I said at the very beginning. We don't all agree, right? We shouldn't all agree. People should not have one point of view, one thought process, and everybody just conforms to that one thought process. That'd be a very boring, very uncreative world. It would be the exact opposite of what comics are. And I want to throw in, this is my own personal opinion about comics. To me, the best, healthiest workplace, the best, healthiest roster of people creating comics are people who do not agree, who have fundamentally different views of things. And why I think that is best, or why I would prefer that more than anything else, is because I think that's where you get the most creative juice. That's where you get the most exciting stories. I think you get it through, conflict, and through certainly healthy conflict, not people openly like smashing beer bottles on each other's heads. But I mean, through conflict and through disagreement tends to become powerful creative force. Through collective, everyone views things the same way, everyone is the same way, I think you get very dull, very uninteresting stories. I think you get very passive work. I don't think you get the best work. So if I'm ever in charge of a company and I'm trying to build up somebody who, a group of people that are going to go out and do a creative endeavor. And by the way, this is why one reason why comics are different than, say, the medical profession. I think if you've got a bunch of surgeons or, people who are orthopedic surgeons, people who are doing work on teeth, I don't think I want a huge variety of opinions and ideas. And by the way, I don't mean they all have to vote for the same person politically. I just mean I don't want as much creativity when we're talking about, open heart surgery. I want more, adherence to best practices that are going to lead to a successful surgery. That's what I'm after. With comics, with movies, with music, I think conflict generates, in many cases, as long as the conflict doesn't spiral out of control, better results. And so that's the difference between the two. So when I hear people sometimes say, and there's been a couple people lately who've said, I just want to work with people just like me. or when I see various press announcements and other things saying, we're going to have a standard of thought. There was one of the chilling pieces, one of the retweets of the union announcement said, this is going to help create a better standard of thought. And not standard of behavior. Standard behavior, I could pretty much be on board with. Yeah, I do think that there's and everybody always worries about the where that all goes, but I think that if there's a standard of behavior at cons, probably a good idea. But standard of thought, I mean, that word just gives me the chills. I don't know about you guys. That sounds terrible. Standard of thought. And I know a lot of companies, a lot of people are wrestling with this idea right now, but that's not a good one. That's not what I think any reasonable, rational person wants to see happen. Standard of thought. Yikes. Sorry. Yikes. Only way to put that. I think that I'm definitely making a mountain out of a molehill to some extent. I do appreciate the idea of you get to work with people you like. I appreciate the idea that everybody can be good chums and you can go out and you can drink after work and in a healthy good environment. And for many people answering the question, that's probably what they have in mind. But I think in comics there's a decent bias to more than that. It's not just being able to go out and hang out and have a good time with people. It's actually that there needs to be alignment. That there needs to be I'm working, because it's not just, unfortunately, the statement of I want to work with people like me is often followed up with, and I want to keep people out who aren't like me. And again, that's never a healthy environment. Typically, I think it's very unhealthy for creatives. I think in the comic industry, you need to have a variety of views, period. But as I've talked about in other videos, this is one of the problems that I often see with the kind of the clubs and the cliques that get created in comics, is people, for whatever reason, they always navigate to trying to get a club together of like, these are the people like me, and we're going to jealously protect everything around us. And then eventually somebody gets pissed at that club, and they go out and they form their own club, and then they immediately start doing the same shit. Immediately it becomes a cult of personality around a small group of people, and then it just breeds that way. And so you get all these little warring groups, and all of them seem, I think, in my view, to miss the point. You need people who fundamentally disagree on things, who operate differently, who think differently. Not, again, everything is always with a political, ideological frame of mind. It's much bigger than that. People who are different people who communicate differently, people who like to be on video, people who do not like to be on video, introverts and extroverts. You have a more powerful creative thing that comes out the other end if you have a variety of voices. And in comics, I think a lot of it's funny. I've brought this up as well, of like, why isn't there more true diversity in thought with these companies? And what's funny is almost everyone gives me the exact same answer. Yeah, I agree. I'm doing that, but I don't know why the others aren't doing that. It's a funny thing. I will tell you, I talked to somebody at Marvel Comics, who said, yeah, our office is very diverse. DC's not so much. And a lot of the crowdfunding guys, of course, not at all. Okay. You go talk to some of those crowdfunding guys and they will tell you, oh, Marvel has no diversity. They're doing the exact same thing. But our group is very diverse. Everybody believes their group is super diverse, and the groups outside of them are not. It's fascinating to me. I've come to just chuckle about it, because it's just I don't know. I don't know what that means, but it's fascinating. Anyway, why are you doing this? Why do you do comics? Why do you read comics? Why? If you want to work in comics, why? What's your primary goal for doing it? Curious what your answer is, but it's, like I said, it's a question I've been asking more and more lately. Thought you might be interested in that. Maybe not. Anyway, thanks for listening.